In step 2 of the non-constant or supernormal pricing model, we use the constant growth model to find the value of all dividends as of the start of the constant growth stage. Now this one I want to explain a little bit before I start going through the calculations. So let's look at what we did last step. Remember, stock prices are stocks. Common stocks never mature. So really we've got an infinite timeline out here. Dividends continue not just for the first 6 years, which we forecast in step 1, but forever. Now if we put those dividends that we just forecast up onto this problem, we had $2.60 in year 1. We had $4.16 in year 2, $5.82 in year 3, $6.98, $7.68, and finally $7.99 in year 6. That's where we stop forecasting dividends. But remember, there is a dividend that's going to be paid in year 7. There's a dividend that's going to be paid in year 8, year 9, year 10, so on, all the way out through infinity. So we can't solve for the present value of this timeline because it's an infinite timeline with changing cash flows. So we need to come up with some way to break it down. And what we do is we recognize that if we look at this timeline, we can break it in to 2 parts. We've got a timeline that goes out to year 5. And in that timeline, dividends are growing at a variable rate every year. The second part of the timeline which goes out to infinity has a constant growth rate with the first dividend 1 year from the start of that timeline being $7.99. This timeline here is actually a constant growth model. So we can use the constant growth model to find the value of this timeline here. However, we want to be careful. Our constant growth model that we introduced before is P0 equals D1 divided by K minus G. Now we don't have D1, we have D6 because our constant growth dividend, first one, is in year 6. Now when we had D1, that gave us P0, 1 year prior to the dividend. So this would not be P0, it would be 1 year prior to this dividend, which would be P5. So we're going to use the constant growth model to find the value in year 5. And that is $7.99 dividend in year 6 divided by the required return. Our required return was 13%. And the growth rate during this stage, year 6 through infinity, was 4%. So now we just go through the math. $7.99 divided by 0.09. That 0.09 comes from the denominator here. That gives us $88.78. So what that's telling us is all these dividends in year 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way out through infinity are worth $88.78 as of the end of year 5. This is the end of year 5 here. It's the end of year 6. So end of year 5. So now what we've done is taken this infinite segment of the timeline here and changed it to a single value. all the dividends in year 6, 7, 8, 9, all the way through infinity are worth $88.78 today. The last step is going to be putting this all together to figure the present value, and that will be in our next video.